I'm really honored for you guys to be here to share a very special day. It is a very alarming time in the world, and I'll tell you why that is. But I think there's a lot of hope. And I share the stage with some of those people that actually provide that. And there's so many more of those as well. So what is Earth Day? It is a time that we are remembering where we are as humanity, what it has looked like because of us, and what we need to do to make it better. The theme this year is around plastic pollution. It's themed Plastic versus Planet. And as all of you here know of what we do, we are trying to eliminate plastic waste. And one of the reasons that we focus on that is because we are very mindless in how we dispose this very innovative, incredible, very useful product. We don't treat it right when it comes to how we dispose of it, and we need to change the way our mindset is around it. So before I introduce a few people here that are going to share their stories around their journey around plastics, around what they've done, there's this statistic that I think is very important. So how many billion people are living today on Earth? 9? Yeah, close. 8, right? So we're 8 billion people. If you go back 50,000 years of the total number of people that have lived, it's less than 100 billion, right? But if you look 50,000 years ahead, we're going to be over 10 trillion people that have lived this earth. So one of the things that we talk a lot about at Kubik is that we're not descendants of anyone. We're actually ancestors to many more. There's a bigger responsibility that we have for the next 50,000 years versus what we can be saying about ourselves from the past 50. And that mindset really should be around how we take care of Earth, not just because we want beautiful trees and less waste, but because we are actually giving this as ancestors to another 10 trillion people. So with that in mind, I have 3 really incredible people here. I'll do a very, very quick introduction on them. And I'm just going to have a conversation with them. And I've already had conversations with them on what we're going to talk about, but I think it's very powerful to hear it directly from their voice to you. So we have Haymanut. We call her Jaime. Jaime is the head of supply chain for Kubik. That sounds very boring compared to what she does. What she actually does is she's the single person who's responsible for ending plastic waste through Kubik. She's the one that is mobilizing hundreds and soon thousands of women waste collectors throughout the country to make sure that they can contribute to ending plastic waste, but also having a better life along the way. She's going to share a very, very interesting journey that she's had in the past month in Harar. It's a very emotional one for all of us here at Kubik, so really looking forward to that. And then you have Addis. Most of you may know Addis. Recently, he's been known for doing push-ups on stage. We're not going to make him do that. But the reason why we have Addis here is not because he's in the plastic business, but because he is actually investing a lot in companies and people that who are actually investing in the future. Addis was one of our earliest investors at Kubik. And we've had very, very interesting conversations around how we see humanity, how we want to see things changing around investing, around startups. And he's a dad who is incredible at that job. And I might be asking you a bit around that as well. I actually met Gennai for the first time in person today, but we've been talking on LinkedIn for a while. Somehow Gennai came up on my posts on LinkedIn with these incredible photos of waste collectors around Ethiopia. The theme of her work is called Waste Warriors. She's done a lot of other work around the social space prior to this. But one of the reasons why it was important for me to reach out to her is because, unfortunately, the way that we think about waste collectors is very dehumanizing, right? we see them, but we never recognize them. They're doing one of the hardest works in the city, and we never acknowledge them. And we want to learn a little bit from her around what she's seen, her perspective on this, but also what their voices have been in this journey. Yeah. So with that, I'm just going to ask each one of you in a few sentences, who are you outside of what I've said? And what is your hope when it comes to ending plastic waste?
Hey everyone, I'm Madut. I'm mother of 4. Yes, yes, 4. Yeah, so I'm in charge of ending plastic. Yeah, so I want to see more women empowered. Also, we want to create job for money by cleaning plastic waste.
So, Addis Ababa, I'm here because of my children, and I'll get more into that, but my daughter is probably the biggest fan of Kubik. In fact, she started a Kubik club at her school, trying to collect plastic, but I'll get into that, but that's why I'm here.
I am Ganay. I'm a visual storyteller. Yeah, I have the same dream of free plastic planet.
So I'll actually start with you, Ganay. You've taken these very stunning photos that we've seen outside. Where did you take these? Who are these people? And why did you actually get into this project?
I took these pictures in Kolfe area, Kolfe Dildi Akababi. So if you notice, there are like temporary waste storage sites everywhere in Addis. So this is one of the sites. I get to be there because of a work assignment with a non-profit that gave them a compressor. So I was there to document that story only. Then when I get there, I found this community of people who have amazing story. So I happened to do more photo project on them, on their story, to tell their story. And I did 3 things. I did the work for the non-profits, the assignment, then I covered their story, then I took pictures for them in a way that they want to be photographed, which I printed and gave them out to them. More?
Yeah, please continue.
All right, so to introduce you, them, the amazing lady behind this waste collectors group her name is Elfinish. So she started this with only a cart. She started collecting waste with a cart, and she bring together like young people from her community who are robbers, majorat mechi, single moms or beggars, street kids. So she bring these people together. I'm like, let's collect waste and we can make an income out of this. That was their initiative. Then at this point, they have collaborated with other cooperatives that do the same thing. They have Isuzu now, even if they started with a cart. And besides what they do, they have this beautiful community. They see her as a mother figure. There is a guy, if you notice in the picture, one of the guys that is reading, he's like their uncle figure. They call him Basha. Basha means uncle, right? They call him, and they have this community that does this work as well.
One of the things that I noticed from your pictures is most of the collectors look old. You know, the stereotype that I would have had is that they're very young. Why is that?
It's interesting. It is a mix of people, actually. Elfinish could be the middle-aged, I guess. And there's actually a really old man in the group. Really old man. You wouldn't expect him to be working at that age. And there are also younger boys that work in the group. So it is a mix of different age groups she brings together to work in this field.
Thanks. So Jaime, I'm gonna just tie this in to your work in Harar in the past month. How does what Ganai say relate to what you've seen? What are you doing in Harar? I think it's important for people to know. And who are some of these incredible people that you've met?
Okay. I'll start with what we are doing and what we are planning to do in Harar. So we are planning to clean her by making her plastic city. Currently, we are working with 200 women waste collectors. So at the beginning, like 3 weeks before when we go there, there was no one in the landfill. So we start registering, giving training on how to identify plastics. After that, at least now we reached to 200 women, so we're targeting to reach 600 waste pickers. Yeah, so you can, like middle-aged, old ladies, you can find many women there who's struggling to change their life. Yeah, so I'm always seeing myself as lucky how I am to be there, because like one, we created job. Two, I'm seeing them laughing because they are making money. Three, we're cleaning the city. So yeah.
So when I went there last week and we were just passing through the landfill, I couldn't help but notice everyone calling your name, from the kids to the old ladies, everyone. Why is that? Or why do you think it is?
I don't know. Yeah, like I'm trying my best. As a company also, we're trying our best to change their life, but I think we value them. We value them. You can also find people who never been hacked, who never been hurt, even treated well, even they don't even know the concept of protective equipment. Yeah, so.
I promise to make you cry. Well, we'll have to come back to this. I think there were a lot of powerful stories that we've heard and that you've shared with us as well, that I think everyone deserves to hear. Addis, so we've met a while back, but I do remember the day you gave me the phone call and said, let's have lunch, I want to invest in Kubik. And I was honestly very, very confused, because from what I knew about you, you love tech, you love mobile stuff, digital stuff, e-commerce. And I'm like, why is this guy interested in trash, right? Can you just share why? Why was Kubik and the other companies now that you've invested in so important to you?
So can I start off with a very funny story around plastics? So, and this is like our first trip to the US. I think I was maybe 11 or 12. And my aunt was getting married, and the whole family was there for the wedding. And on the way back, you know, the most valuable piece of item coming back from the US is luggage space, right? And that was my first trip with my grandmother. And my grandmother's suitcase was the one that was filled, but it was very light. So, you know, everybody was like chasing space. And then she refused to let anybody inside that suitcase. So we figured a way to get out of the house just so we could open it and look, because it was full, but it was empty. And when we opened, she had all these empty Coke and water plastic bottles filled in there, like, and this was during the dark time. And then like, she's like, let's avale, you know, literally. And I just realized there was a time when we didn't have plastic bottles in this country, right? For her, from all the things that she saw at the mall, you know, a suitcase full of empty plastic bottles was the most precious thing that she could bring back from the US. So I thought that was great. But going back to your question, for me, you guys ever notice that some of the richest people on Earth are building spaceships to get out of the Earth? You ever notice that? Whether it's Bezos, Gates, Musk, you name them, they're literally planning on leaving because they are 100% sure that humans will come to a time where Earth cannot sustain us. They've come to that conclusion, and it's a scary, scary thought, right? Like we're consuming more than what we should. This Earth cannot sustain us anymore. That's a foregone conclusion by them. Now, when it comes to us, we just have to do what we can to save the little environment that we have control over. And for me, what you guys are doing essentially taking something that obviously we can't right now stop it coming into our environment, at least to be able to reuse it. And there's one thing that us Ethiopians know to do very well is recycle and reuse. You can ask all the Ladas on the street or the Volkswagens or whatever else. We don't throw anything out. We figure a way to make it come back to life. So what you're doing is essentially that. So for me, I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was a cool concept. And I thought it was something that I could show off to my kids with, because I can talk to them about fintech and this or that. But I tell the only question they ask me is about what's Kubik doing. So
What does your son want to be?
my son,
Yeah.
Kwas. Kwas Bashitalo. Kwas. And then he's like, if I can't play ball, I want to be a coach. If I can't be a coach, I want to be a manager. If I can't be a manager, I want to own. So I'm like, let's just work on the owning. Because if you can own, you can do whatever you want. So we're working on the ownership aspect.
I think it was the first time we ever met. You called your kind of portfolio companies your kids,
Yeah.
right? In the beginning, I said, whoa, like this guy, he's really bringing down these founders. It took a while for me to understand that, you have so much love for your kids and you have so much love for the founders that you've invested in as well. Most of them are under 30,
All of them.
right? All of them are under, well, yeah. I'll consider myself under 30 as well. What do you feel makes young kids like the ones that we see up front tick? And why do you see some value to investing in them versus older people?
Oh, it's very simple. I mean, if you look at, I'm a businessman, so if you live in a country where the average age is 18 or 17 out of 130 million, it's very obvious where you should put your money in. They know what they want. It's their country. We're just here along for the ride. And I think it's a totally different generation than the one I was raised in. I mean, we had to wait 3 months to hear Michael Jackson's song. They get it in 20 minutes globally, right? It's a different world. They get information instant. I think they know what they want. They're much more aspirational than we could ever, expect to be. And I believe, for a lot of them, they have the idea, they have the energy. They just need a bit of finance and guidance and support. And the reason why I call them my kids is because I literally treat them like my kids. I don't want them to fall. I don't want them to, to fail. I don't want them to be confused. I don't want them to be depressed. So I'm there. And half my day is spent on just giving them advice.
Thanks. So Gennai, just coming back to you, beyond the project, I think one of the things that I noticed is you really caption your photos really well. How do you see humanity when you are in a situation which is seemingly very much in despair, where it feels unwanted, where people feel unwanted? It doesn't have to be specific to waste warriors, but in general, how is your view towards humanity, and what do you see your contribution to be to it?
Like you said, most of the people I document, most of the stories, like especially doing humanitarian work, I get to be with disadvantaged people, in quotes, or it's then when you look at them, these are people like you don't notice in general. We don't notice them. I can ask you, like you always hear ቆሻሻ አውጡ ድምፅ in your neighborhood, but do you know the ladies that do that? Do you ever care enough to think like, who is this lady? Do you ever communicate with her or invite her in for breakfast? Like, we don't know them. We just hear them, ቆሻሻ አውጡ, then we go put the trash out, like, then that's it. But behind every person we encounter, behind every person there is a story. Everyone has a story. And there is so much story of resilience, especially besides the challenge they go through in life, besides what they go through in life, you see there is so much resilience, there is so much strength, there is so much gratefulness. So every story I document, I actually end up learning a lot from them. Sometimes it could be very overwhelming, but there is so much to learn from them. And it makes me realize, like, whoever I see that, okay, there is a whole story behind this person. And when you make time to sit and listen, there's so much to learn from everyone. And I think it helps me to connect also more with people. It helps me to learn from their stories. It helps me help other people to get to see these stories like we never get a chance to see. So yeah, I think that's it.
Can you share one thing you've learned?
Whew. First thing I learned is gratefulness. Yeah, gratefulness is like the basic lesson. I would say last week I was so busy documenting story, and there's like this people like that goes through like, okay, just to give you a highlight, I might document stories of like people that go through the war, or that people that go through migration stories. I was doing migration stories last week, and there's a lot of things people go through in their life. And when they narrate their stories, the things that they go through in their life, you'll be surprised, like how are they surviving? How are they still breathing? But you see them being so grateful, and they are so hopeful about tomorrow. So when you give them a little push like of like income generating means, or like small trainings, when you give them that a little push, they are already hopeful. They already know what to do. They are already ready. So we might think, when we look at people from outside, we might think, oh, they are not working. They are just lazy. They are just sitting here. But they just need that little push to keep them walking and to keep to change their lives. And the main lesson I learned from them is gratefulness, resilience, and being ready to change their lives.
Thanks. So Jaime, I'm sure you have a lot of stories around that as well. Can you just share one thing that you've learned? It could be from Harar, or the incredible work that you've also done here in Addis Ababa.
Like I learn every day when I work with the waste pickers, even in Harar. Like they're grateful for what they have. They value everything, and yeah, they value everything, every step we take. And for myself, even I was telling my kids that they need to be thankful for what they have. Yeah, that's one. Maybe I can share you a story of one waste collector in Addis Ababa. Her name is Hayat. She's a mother of four, and she's a third year student in one college. And so one of my colleagues met her while he was looking for a waste picker for our collection point in Addis Ababa. So she's been struggling to pay for her transportation, which is 50 birr per day. And the day I met her, like her daughter was having tonsillitis, and she was not afford to buy her a medication, Clamox. So she was at in a difficult stage, because the clinics were telling her that she will be hospitalized if she don't take the medication. So because of she met us and she met the team in the collection point, she was able to buy her medication for her baby. So yeah, grateful, blessed every day to see the life of women changed. Yeah, that's the only thing I can share with you guys.
I do want to finish a bit of the story around Hayat. I know it's a little hard for you to talk about it, but Hayat is an incredible human being. She's a mother of four, right? She's in college getting an accounting degree, and she simply wanted to support her family. She was displaced from where they used to live in Harar. They came here for a better life. And I remember asking her, how do you feel being an aspiring accountant and you're picking waste? She didn't even think twice. She said, a job is a job. My job is to actually show my kids that anything that you commit to will get you a better life, right? She was doing it for her kids. And the one other thing that she said that Jaime will never admit is Hayat had never given a single ounce of plastic. And Hayat, along with folks in that collection point, supported her to actually get the medication. They supported one of her kids who has an intellectual disability or speech disability to go get therapy, because what they were doing was actually valuing people, right? And Hayat is probably one of the most highest performing waste collectors. And when I asked her, what do you want to be? She's like, I'm going to be your accountant one day, right? And that's really what the humanity that we've seen in our work with waste has been. I do have one last question, and then I definitely want you guys to ask these incredible people some questions as well. So Addis, you always make this comparison between the US and Utopia, right? And for better or worse on either direction. When you think about the entrepreneurs that are working in climate or in the environment here in Utopia versus those that are working outside, what do you think gives us a more competitive advantage?
I think for us, we're working towards avoiding the mistakes they made. And with Ethiopia, it's not just on climate, but with everything else. I think we tend to do everything last. And so there's a learning curve that we can avoid from everybody else. And that's the advantage we have. But not just in Ethiopia, but the whole continent as a whole. We haven't used up our natural resources as much as they have. We haven't developed as much as they have. We don't consume as much as they do. So relatively, we can start thinking about consumption without, damage to the climate. Consumption without damage to our environment and our waters and our air and our trees. Because there's one thing I tell a lot of people that can afford it. I tell them to go see the migration in Kenya with the animals, because I hardly believe this is the last generation that will see that, where you see the animals free, walking around, and because they're dying. I mean, literally, all of that is gonna go. So their kids will probably never see this, as sad as it is. There was a news report, I think last week, that I retweeted, where it said 10 years ago there was 1.5 million wildebeests. This time there are 200,000, 10 years later. So imagine, in 20 years time, they'll all be gone. That's the reality we live in. And so, it's depressing, it's scary, but it's the reality. We have to develop, we have to grow, we have to eat, we have to consume, we have to drive, we have to, we have 126 million people. Can you imagine the amount of consumption that's going to happen in this part of the world for the next 40, 50 years? Somebody has to build it, somebody has to do it. But if we can learn to do it in a way where it's sustainable, we have no choice. Literally, they did. I actually envy them. They developed without thinking about climate. They developed without thinking about none of this. And so I think the cost of developing for us is much higher. But yeah, that's where we are. And I think for a lot of the startups that are looking at that space need more support than any other startups.
Thanks. Anyone have any questions?
When you were putting when you were taking away the plastic, where were you putting it when you were done?
That's a very smart question. So what they do is, after they bring all the waste in one storage area, they sort it out. They sort the plastic, the metals, like papers separately. So they sell like the plastic bottles, they put it separately, and they sell that. They sell that per kilo. I think they sell that 5 birr per kilo. And they separately put the metals, and they also sell that for other people who wants to buy it. The papers, they also sell that for other people. And the remaining waste, they sell that to the government, and the government also pays them by the kilo by the amount of waste they bring in. Does that answer your question? Thank you so much.
First, I'd like to thank you all for sharing your experiences with us. My question is for all of you. I'm very curious to know on how you define success in your day-to-day.
We'll start with you, Amy.
When I see more women, and specifically if you ask me about her, I want the kids to go to school, the kids in the landfill. So that's success for me every day.
Well, for me it's different. I wake up and I sleep, that's success. I'm a different age group, so no, I'm just kidding. But I mean, in all honesty, for me, it's Kadus knows this. We're passionate about creating jobs. We're passionate about creating opportunities, especially in this country. So anything that I do that day to move that needle one single inch forward, I call that success.
For me, personally, success is to be where I need to be and to be doing what I need to do. So if there's a particular purpose you put in your life, and being there for me is success on daily basis. And I want that to impact other people. So as long as I'm impacting people, like specifically if I say visual storyteller and I'm telling people's story with dignity and well, I would call that a success personally. Thank you.
One last question.
What would you tell us to do to help the planet? What's your advice for like regular people who are in industry, etc.? What can we do as individuals?
Like from what I learned since I joined Kubik, most people, when they dispose waste, we don't segregate at all. So for the waste pickers, it's very difficult to do the segregation. So at least let's contribute by segregating waste, and also let's learn for the new generation about segregating waste and plastic, like such related things.
Yeah, exactly what she said.
I would say to be intentional. Like we talk about like government policies and stuff like that, but change comes when one person contributes something. So if we are intentional to minimize our plastic use, if we choose like to use water bottle personally, like instead of buying every day, like how many bottles do we buy every day? To be intentional when we are purchasing things, when we dispose waste, like she said. So I would say just be intentional.
I mean, it's something I tell my kids. Whenever you do anything, just remember how would it feel if it was being done to you, right? So even when it comes to throwing stuff out, if where you were throwing it out was at your own home, right? And if other people were throwing that stuff at your own home as well, how would you feel about it? Life moves fast nowadays, right? We're human. We have 24 hours whether we like it or not. Typically we have 16. We occupy that thinking about ourselves and what we want to do, and not enough about how that affects others. And I think it really deserves merit to spend a little bit of time thinking about what your actions can do as a consequence to others. I think it's really important. I want to thank you, and I'm sure we'll have more time for people to get to know you as well, but thank you so much for your time. Before you get off, there is one person I will be bringing on the stage who I'm a big fan of, and I am a very big fan of her work around as well. So as you leave, I do want Sumia to come up, and we're going to talk a little bit about the work we're doing together. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Sumaya Samuel. I'm a 14 years old girl, and I'm the student of School of Tomorrow. and I'm the vice president of Nature Lovers of Ethiopia and the team leader of my school or School of Tomorrow.
So Sumia, I had a chance to meet one of your other co-founders, Lelina, and I was very impressed by the work that you're doing. Can you tell us a little bit about Nature Lovers for Ethiopia? How big are you? How big were you when you started?
Okay, so Nature Lovers of Ethiopia started with the motto "Go Green to Breathe Clean" in April 2021. Before like 3 years, we work with students from different schools to initiate them, to make them passionate about the nature, to make them protect their nature, their world, their coming future, and we focus on climate change and different environmental issues.
How big are you guys?
We are like 200 to 300 members.
And how many schools?
12 different schools.
So why did you start Nature Lovers for Ethiopia? Why are you part of it? Why did this matter to you?
As a teenager, as a young, our future is going to be in danger in the future years. So this is a really big deal for us. We will live in this world, so we need to protect this world. So that's why I joined this group. Before 2 years ago, I'm a journalist on DW, Deutsche Welle, breaking the silence of the women. And I work with this media. And once I get Lilina working on this Nature Lovers of Ethiopia with some teams, like 15 or such members only. On that day, I interviewed her about Nature Lovers of Ethiopia. And we get to know each other. We had many things to talk about the nature, about the environment, how to protect it, what's the solution, what's the problem. We were talking about those issues, and I joined her as a team leader, and now I'm the vice president of our team.
Can we just take a step back? You are a journalist, and you are in 9th grade? Wow. What were you guys doing in 9th grade? Right? What got you into journalism?
So in this part, I'm going to present it in Amharic. I'm sorry. So ስድስተኛ ክፍል ላይ ሚኒ ሚዲያ ላይ እሳተፋለሁ። አስቢኖ ትምህርት ቤቶች ላይ ሁሌ ሚኒ ሚዲያ አለ። ሶ ሚኒ ሚዲያ ላይ ስለምሳተፍ ትምህርት ቤታችን ከዲደብሊው ዶቼ ዌሌ ኮሚኒኬሽን ነበራቸው ኤንድ ሚኒ ሚዲያ ላይ ከሚሳተፉ ቶፕ የሚባሉ ተማሪዎችን እስቲ አገናኙን ተባለ። ዳን ከኔ ጋር አስተዋወቀችን ዳይሬክተሯ። ቮይስ ኮል ላይ ስለ ሚኒ ሚዲያ ምን እንደምታረጊ ብላ ጠይቀችኝ። in this age ስድስተኛ ክፍል ላይ ከጓደኛዬ ጋር ለአስተማሪዎቻችን የምስጋናው ምስክር ወረቀት ሰጠናቸው። በዛ ምክንያት ነው እንትን ያልነው። ከዛም እንዲያረጋችሁ ስለምን እንደሰጣችኋቸው ብላ ማረጋውን ነገር ጠይቀችኝ። ነገርኳት እና she was really happy እና የቤተሰብሽን አድራሻ ስጭኝ አለችኝ።
What did you tell her?
Like I'm really passionate about journalists በጣም እና I'm not that confident ግን ደግሞ I still like it እና that's why እንደነገርኳት ሚኒ ሚዲያ ላይ ምን እንደምንሰራ ተማሪውን ስቲል በዛ ኤጅ ላይም ስለ ኢንቫይሮንመንት ግቢያችንን እናጸዳ ነበር and በየክፍሉ የሚጣሉን ቆሻሻዎች like the ቆሻሻ ኮሌክተርስ ሲባል ሁላችንም ስለነሱ ያለን አስተሳሰብ ሁላችንም ዝቅ ያለ ነገር ነው። ያንን መቀየር እንዳለብን ለተማሪዎች እናስተምር ነበር። ከኔቸር ላቨርስ ጋር ደግሞ ስንገናኝ በደንብ መስራት ጀመርን። ሶ እንደዛ ከተገናኘን በኋላ ቀጠልን አብረን መስራት። ሶ ከማማ ጋር አወራች ዳን ጀመርኩኝ። ሶ ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ያሉ ከ13 እስከ 19 ዓመት ድረስ ያሉ ቲኔጀሮችን ሴቶችን ምን አይነት ስራ ነው የሚሰሩት እነሱ ላይ ፎከስ አድርገን ኢንተርቪው እናደርጋለን። I'm the host እዛ ሚዲያ ላይ።
It's incredible. Great work. Incredible work. So I'll ask you one last question. Okay. So it is Earth Day. It is Earth Week. What are you guys planning to do?
So in this Earth Week, in this Earth Day, in the coming week, Saturday, April 27, I think, it's our 3-year anniversary, and we are going to celebrate this day by making the other people knowing about plastic and how they have to use it, how they have to recycle, and they have to care about their nature, they have to care about their environment, they have to care about their future and their children's future. So we are going to do about that. And I have some things to tell you about the Nature Lovers of Ethiopia. So in these 3 years, we organized 8 awareness creation events and 5 cleanups and tree planting programs. And in the future, our aim is to protect our environment, to create a better environment for the coming children's, and for us and for the older people too. And reducing environmental change and different environmental problems. So mainly to have a cleaner, greener and healthier Ethiopia, Africa and the world. Thank you. So to do this, Nature Lovers of Ethiopia wants to work with different schools from different students from different schools all over Ethiopia, all over Africa and all over the world to change this problem in the coming years. Thank you.
You are fascinating. And if you continue in this path, if all 200 to 300 of you continue in this path, we do have hope for Earth. So we're really proud of you. One of the things that we're doing at Kubik is actually working with you guys. I don't think you need our help, so I think it's more for us to learn from you, right? But I encourage all of you to know a bit more about their organization, because like you said, they're the ones who are stuck with this Earth, right? And they have a lot more solutions for us than you can think. So we look forward to learning more from you.
A message for everyone.
Go for it.
ሁላችንም ኤንቫይሮንመንታችንን ለመጠበቅ የየግላችንን አስተዋጽኦ ማበርከት ምንችለው ልጆቻችሁን የእህቶቻችሁን ልጆች በአካባቢያቸው ያሉትን ህፃናት በማስተማር እነሱም አካባቢያቸውን እንዲጠብቁ በማድረግ እናንተ የምትችሉትን ነገር በማድረግና ኔቸር ላቨርስ ኦፍ ኢትዮጵያንም ሰፖርት ማድረግ ትችላላችሁ። ኢቨንቱና ፕሮግራሙ ወይም ቲሙ ለትንንሽ ልጆች ብቻ አይደለም፣ ሁሉንም ያሳትፋል። ሃይኪንግ ላይ መሳተፍ ትችላላችሁ ኤንድ ሜምበር ሆናችሁ እኛን ሰፖርት ማድረግ ትችላላችሁ። ሰፖርት የምታደርጉን በአይዲያ ሊሆን ይችላል። እኛን ለኛ አይዲያ በመስጠት እኛን በምታበረታቱበት ጊዜና ለኛ ሀሳብ በምትሰጡን ጊዜ የበለጠ እንድንሰራ እንሆናለን። ስለዚህ ሁላችንም የበኩላችንን እንወጣ። አመሰግናለሁ።